Welcome to Raleigh for midweek baseball. Here at Doak Field at Dale Park, the Radford Highlanders come to town. Taking on the NC State Wolfpack, two power hitting clubs looking to wrap up a Big South ACC matchup. Alongside my partner Sean Adler, I'm Evan Budrovich. Two teams that have shown the ability to play good opponents early in the year, and now for Radford will focus on its catcher, Garrett Poncioni, the true freshman. How has he stood out from day one?
Yeah, I think it really speaks a lot to his ability to command the infield, command the outfield, command the defense. The coaching staff must have a lot of trust in him, especially being so young.
He gets the first start behind the plate today for Julian Rojas. Conversely for NC State, the power numbers are incredible. 17 home runs, including 3 yesterday. What a balance at Elliott Avent's board.
Yeah, a lot of balance, a lot of depth too. If I'm the opposition, especially the pitching staff, I don't know how to get through to getting a lot of these guys out. You see a lot of depth, and you see a lot of guys hitting for average and tons of power in this lineup.
Top 15 in home runs. That's all in support of a first-time starter, Rio Britton, who goes all the way out from Oregon, a true transfer, and now from a midweek arm and a bullpen arm to his first time starting. What's the adjustment for the NC State left hand?
I don't think it's too much of an adjustment. I mean, he was used more situationally last year, but you really just ask kind of in midweek starts to kind of go once, maybe twice through the lineup. So he's not going to be stretched out that much more than what he's been used to doing.
35 outings last year for Britton, so a ton of innings in the Pac-12 conference. Now he faces the Highlanders out of the Big South, who were picked 10th in the preseason. There's Poncioni, who's done everything right. Batting average, on base, RBIs, leads the team. Rojas will move to DH today. And Tristan Shoemaker, a heck of an athlete at shortstop in this Radford order. Lineup hitting .236 early in the year, 16 doubles, so some extra base potential. And now we get this party started. There's the head coach, who, of course, disappears when we want to spotlight him, Alex Garrett and company. This Radford team came down this morning on the bus, had some McAllister's Deli. They're fired up and ready to go. And NC State, in the midst of an 8-game homestand, still undefeated at 8-0. Zach Whitaker will lead things off for the Highlanders. And we are underway here in Raleigh. First pitch of the game is roped out to left center. This ball is carrying, and it one-hops the wall. It's a leadoff double for Zach Whitaker. Good start for the Highlanders.
And that's something like you just mentioned too, Evan. When they're able to get on, they're actually taking advantage of taking extra bases and not just producing out of singles. So some solid power right there. Was able to kind of get it to that kind of left center gap. Now he's in a position where he can score depending on what happens right here.
It's the first double of the season for Whitaker. A Radford team that lost 17-2 yesterday against Virginia Tech. They wanted to bounce back today. And here's the possibility of a bunt. Did that hit the foot of Shoemaker? A fitting name when you want a hit-by-pitch call here. As it looks like Radford's going to challenge this call. And there's the first-year head coach issuing that challenge. Home plate umpire having a discussion. Terrence Jones with his crew. Did anybody else see it, right? Because you want to check initially. Any of the other umpires have a look. So this is being reviewed. Did you notice a hit-by-pitch there, Sean?
I didn't think so. To me, I thought he got out in time.
Watch that front foot.
Yeah, and you can see it hits the turf about 6 inches in front of him, and I don't know if it caught his toe.
But Tristan was adamant to his coach, Alex Garrett. He wanted that challenge.
Sure.
And some players just say that to have the confidence and the charisma to go, I truly think this hit me.
It might as well. I mean, it could have hit him. To be honest with you, you want to do whatever you can to get on. I mean, aside from the double that they just had, you know how good State's pitching staff is. They're strike throwers. They get a lot of effective outs. If you're going to find a way on, trying to, I'm not saying fake a hit by pitch, but whatever you can do to take that base, that it might actually work.
Radford was third in the Big South, 80 hit by pitches last year. So this is nothing new for a Highlander program. You want to find ways on, whether it's traditional or otherwise. The longer this review goes, the more you wonder, is there any evidence? Could this be overturned? The current call is no hit by pitch.
And I think that's what it really comes down to, too. You see it in football, you know, whatever the call is made, it could go either way, but it usually will stick because there may not be enough to overturn it. Oh,
he is hit by the pitch. So, first and second, no one out. We talked about Radford only scoring 2 runs yesterday. What a chance here in this first inning.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, given what, you know, Rio Britton has done in the past over at Oregon being used situationally, this is a situation where he's probably very, very familiar with coming in, having to go out of the stretch, having guys on, trying to hold guys, as well as focus on the guy at home plate.
This is Garrett Pancione, the true freshman, who goes after the first pitch, and that's snagged. Infield single as Green knocks it down. Well, what an ideal start. 2 hits, a hit by pitch, and the bases are loaded.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I'm okay with Green really not trying to make a play out of that. That's just something that you want to keep in the infield and preventing that run from second base to actually score. You know that he's going to advance 90 feet, but don't try and make a play out of that because you don't know what could happen.
NC State's pitching staff entered this game in the top 5 in ERA. This will be tested as Rojas goes after the first pitch. So 4 batters, 3 swings, and a hit by pitch in the opening pitch.
And we've seen this throughout the season too. A lot of guys going up against State's pitching staff are very, very swing aggressive. What I think it speaks to is that their pitching staff as a whole has a lot of consistency inside the strike zone. Their ability to throw strikes is more so than you see out of in a lot of other programs.
Rojas, the leading RBI threat from last season, chases a breaking ball. New catcher today, Cannon Peebles behind the plate, the true freshman, in support of the first start of the season. And the first start in 3 years for Rio Britton, a former bullpen arm out of Oregon. Britton pitched 35 games out of the pen for Coach Mark Wazakowski of the Oregon Ducks. Now he's in a quagmire against the Radford Highlanders. This fly ball will drift out of the park.
It's funny you mentioned that's a familiar name, Wazakowski. He recruited me, actually.
Back in your days in the West Coast?
Back in my days in the West Coast.
Alongside a former USC Trojan turned NC State Wolfpack pitcher, Sean Adler. I'm Evan Budrovich. Julian Rojas, the captain and veteran of this Radford Highlander team, hits with the bases loaded. Works the count full, nowhere to put him.
You know, right here, you want to give him the opportunity to swing the bat and see what happens, especially when you have runners on. I would be willing right here to sacrifice a run to see if I can get a double play out of it.
The 3-2. Big foul ball from Rojas.
And as a pitcher, that's the hardest thing, too, is when you are kind of deep into a count, more so like a full count, and that batter just keeps on fighting it off and making it even a tougher out to get.
Let's try this again on 3-2. And a walk. Radford strikes first. What an ideal start for the Highlanders. Lose by 15 yesterday to Virginia Tech, and a run already in with no one out.
Yeah, absolutely. To be able to score early, I mean, that gives that team a little bit more confidence. And, I mean, they haven't even gone out to pitch and play defense yet. So for them to have kind of a little bit of a leg up right here, that gives them a little bit more of a boost.
You've been in these moments on the mound. What's this conversation like between Chrysler and Britton?
He's just trying to settle him down. I mean, other than that leadoff hit, that leadoff double, there hasn't been a whole lot of hard hit balls. It's been more kind of bad luck, kind of hard hit balls in the infield, if anything.
Britton in his first outing, 2 innings, no runs. That was in the midweek out of the pen. Now he's the starter, and with 2 midweeks, NC State having to be flexible with its rotation.
You want to see what kind of response you get out of Britton, though, right here. I mean, you know, a little, not necessarily roughed up, but a little bit of kind of adversity that he's dealing with. What's going to happen is really going to mandate or dictate what happens the rest of the game.
So Peyton Henry works ahead in the count. He'll get the start in left field today. A transfer from John A. Logan College. That's up in the Chicago area. And he drills one to the right side. Good snag at second by Harrison. And that is in time. The run scores, so it's 2-0 Radford.
And that's a tough play to make. Ball in the 3-4 hole, kind of relatively hard hit ground ball. You want to be able to have an infielder, your second baseman, that can lay out and save essentially an out.
And Harrison was shifted towards second there. That's a hard play.
Tons of range.
He started at shortstop yesterday. He moves to second base today. And now Paul Moore hits with 1 out. Good stop by Peebles. I was curious 2 weeks into the year how that turf backstop will play a factor. It seems to play pretty pure for the catcher. Try saying that 5 times fast. As Moore fishes on the breaking ball. Paul Moore from Walters State Community College hitting in a big spot. 2 on, 1 out. And the count in his favor. What do you want to see from Britton here in this
that
spot?
cutter, slider, whatever that kind of like, you know, shorter breaking pitches, everything's been missing down in the dirt. You want to try and locate that a little bit more up. Kind of try and start that maybe at the belt and see what happens.
Moore drills one off the glove of Britton. The only play is to first, so it's 3-0 Radford. And we talked about it, bases loaded, nobody out. Radford's taking advantage of these chances.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, with guys in scoring position, especially 90 feet from home plate at third base, all you have to do is hit solid ground balls, kind of balls up the middle through the hole, and you're going to manufacture runs.
Even if Britton stops that ball, I think the run scores, so that's a smart play to go to first. 2 outs for one of the star transfers for Radford, Miles Levere. First-year impact player, 3 RBI, 3 doubles right away. And the coaching staff said this afternoon, hey, Levere's come in from day 1. He's earned the spot at third, replacing David Bryant on the infield, all-conference shortstop, and he's earned that job on the left side. Good changeup for strike 2.
And I think that's going to be the key more so than anything. I mean, you still want to try and dial in that breaking pitch so you can throw it confidently in the strike zone. But I feel like, honestly, mixing that fastball with the changeup, that's probably going to be the most effective tool kind of combination right there.
Levere from King George, Virginia. He transfers in from the community college ranks, and what a big at-bat. The 2-2 is rocketed to right. That'll stay in the park for Candelaria. After Radford scores 3 runs on 2 hits. Good start for the road squad. Now NC State to the plate when we return. Welcome back to Raleigh. Second career outing for Colin Williams, the true freshman out of Pennsylvania, and what a big spot, pitching with a 3-run lead. Williams, who pitched out of the bullpen against Wagner, now gets the start. What do you expect from the Radford left-hander?
You know, I think just having the fact that you have, you know, a 3-run cushion, that's going to give him a little bit more confidence. It's going to help. Like I said earlier, though, it's really hard to pitch to this offense. What you want to do is you want to just try and force some action. They don't strike out a whole lot, so hopefully your defense can make some plays behind you.
NC State at the plate. 14 home runs in the last week. That is truly remarkable. The big home run hitter from yesterday has the day off for NC State. So, Cozart not in the lineup. There goes Peebles, and of course Groover, Green, and Candelaria have a ton of power up top.
Absolutely, and the thing about all these, you know, power hitting guys in NC State's lineup is the guys that are hitting in front of them have so much ability to get on. So you know that when your power hitters, you know, the meat of your lineup gets up to bat, you're probably going to have some guys in scoring position anyway.
True freshman, one of 8 first-year players for Radford. Takes on an NC State order that's hitting .332 in the first 2 weeks. Williams misses outside to Trevor Candelaria, who gets the start back at the leadoff spot. He hit in the middle half of the order yesterday in a 14-run win.
Right here, you know, you got a 2-0 count, young freshman arm kind of pitching right now. You want to be patient. You really are just looking for that kind of one pitch, which is going to be the fastball in the right spot, which is going to be usually right down the middle.
There's the fastball, but it misses low.
And especially given the dynamics of the game, kind of, you know, Radford went up 3-0. It was almost kind of like an initial punch to the gut. You could see that sometimes that lineup wants to get really antsy and trying to get on so they can kind of even the stakes.
That's a center cut, strike one. Candelaria's reached base in all 8 starts. He moves up to the leadoff spot, where he's hit almost every game this year, the top of Elliot Avent's order. And he missed one of his loops on his belt. Interesting. So take strike 2. The belt goes over the string. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I just noticed that, actually. It's a bright red, so you might as well show it off, right?
Colin Williams now on 3-2. Gives up a line drive. That stays in the park for Zach Whitaker, who's there to make the catch.
It's a really good hard hit ball. I mean, kind of fastball up and away a little bit. Candelaria got a good piece, but, you know, even more so on Williams' path. Great piece of pitching. You go down 3-0. It could be really easy to kind of cave in and allow that runner or that batter to get on base, but he was able to work his way back right there.
The coaching staff noted with Williams, if they could get 3 innings today and get this bullpen set, they'd be very pleased for Radford. Williams was the highest rated pitching recruit as a freshman coming in. And he faces a reigning All-ACC sophomore in Peyton Green. Rips to a fastball. We've seen majority fastballs from Williams early, 87 to 90, challenging these NC State hitters.
And that's actually kind of surprising to see, too, because with an offense and a lineup as experienced and lethal as State's lineup is, you want to be able to mix in a bunch of different pitches to try and throw them off. I mean, he's been able to beat him so far with the fastball.
Look at the max effort that Williams delivers with. Every pitch could be his last as he misses outside. Understand Radford used 7 pitchers yesterday. This is the back-to-back midweeks early in the year. This could be a Johnny Holstaff type of day. So dials up strike 2. Peyton Green, who's riding an 8-game hit streak. He's done everything right in the first 2 weeks. Takes ball 4. And that's the development of the sophomore Peyton Green from year 1 to year 2.
Absolutely. I mean, and he had so much opportunity to play last year, too. And you'd think 256, solid average, not out of this world. But, I mean, as a freshman, that's really, really hard to do. He's almost hitting 260 with that sample size. I'd say that's really impressive as a freshman.
Now Williams faces Gino Groover, James Groover III, who all he did was blast 2 home runs when these teams met in Raleigh for a 3-game series last year. Groover's bat is starting to come to life. They average up to 273. Hits in his last 4 games. Now, for Williams, when you're pitching with this much effort, this much velo, how do you find the control in these spots?
Well, what you want to do is you want to try and slow the game down in your head. Sometimes, especially when you get runners on against the lineup that's this dynamic, you can tend, especially as a freshman, to let the moment get the best of you. You want to recollect your thoughts, try and take a deep breath, you know, you practice all the time and practicing in your bullpens, pitching out of the stretch, so this shouldn't be anything new that he hasn't had to do before.
So this is where Christian Bourne, the pitching coach, has a quick meeting. He worked alongside Alex Garrett at JMU, and those two came together to Radford this past summer. From Harrisonburg to Radford, Virginia. The Blue Ridge Mountains in Radford are beautiful, by the way, if you get a chance to go up there. Worth the visit.
Hey, looking for yours on top.
So following the meeting, this pitch is popped up. Paul Moore drifts to the line. There he is to make the catch. Second out. No hat needed on that one. Maybe I'm old school, but the strap back hats were always my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to pick your pin and lock those in. A lot harder to fall off your head, that's for sure.
I think it's also the look with some of the guys, too. Is they have it almost like hovering on top of their head.
I know this whole one-size-fits-all thing is the new wave.
Yeah.
They signed me back for a snapback hat. Will Marcy hits with 2 outs. This is Marcy's 7th start.
Working the zone right here. Go ahead, man. Come on, cut.
And last season, he only started a handful of games. This is a big moment for Marcy, really identifying himself as the full-time first baseman. Runner takes off. Good throw behind the plate, and just late. Stolen base for Peyton Green.
Yeah, and, you know, he actually got a really good jump, especially against the left-handed pitcher who, in theory, he should be really, you know, given the advantage of seeing that runner right when he lifts his leg go.
Good pitch for strike 1. So part of that product is you go on first movement versus a lefty, and you almost dare him to throw to first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to try and mess with them. Lefties more so than righties because it's almost kind of like your Achilles heel to have the ability to see that runner and see what he's doing.
The cat and mouse game of slowing down the running.
Because it essentially forces the left-handed pitcher to have to really pay close attention not only to the batter and what you're about to throw from an execution standpoint, but also what that runner at first base is about to do.
That results in NC State's 9th stolen base of the year. Williams, a lot of attention at second.
Yeah. Get him right here. Get him right here.
And something worth noting, too, and we'll have to see what happens as this game transpires, but I've noticed with Williams, it's a little bit more of a slower delivery, longer, higher leg kick. With runners on, especially in runners in scoring position, I don't know how that's going to favor towards Radford. You want something a little bit quicker to home plate.
Now the payoff pitch is off the bat, one of those accidental check swings to fight it off. It's like the lightsaber found him. He didn't want to hit it.
Almost, yeah.
Darth Vader used the force to push the ball towards his bat. This comes up on the 20th pitch of the first inning. Just high.
Tried to go the cutter or breaker, whatever that was, a slider piece. And I don't think Marcy was expecting it, to be honest with you, just because he's been in full counts, I think, with 2 other batters and went to the fastball.
Let's see where this misses.
Just a little bit up.
You're right, though. Marcy was not expecting that pitch.
I think the thing is that wasn't as good of a breaking pitch as it could have been, so I think the fact that it was more of a soft-moving break, it almost fooled the umpire in thinking it was a little bit higher than what it actually was.
Carter Trice up with 2 outs. And now for Colin Williams, that's 3 at-bats that have gone 3-2. State is working the pitch count. Could go both ways here if you make another mistake.
What you're going to need is a little bit more efficiency if you're going to go, a couple times through the lineup. Maybe 1.5 times.
Trice pops it up. Tibbs goes back. Moore comes in, and Moore's got it. Radford escapes the jam in the first inning, and And the Highlanders up 3-0 over NC State as we go to the second. Cannon Peoples gets his second start behind the plate for NC State. Very traditional 9 for Late Haven with Noah Souls in left and the speedster Parker Nolan out in center.
Yeah, I know. I really trust this defense, especially if I'm Britain. They've been able to make a lot of plays so far early in this season. You've seen guys kind of lay out, put their body on the line to try and get these outs. You want to see that. You want to see a guy that plays hard, tries to get whatever they can do to make an out.
So here on the top of the second, Ryan Gilmore hits with a Radford 3-0 lead. And he goes after the first pitch. Harrison all by himself. And this is a trend for Radford. 8 hitters have come to the plate. 7 have swung at the first pitch.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a large enough sample size at this point where you know what to expect as their lineup as a whole when their batters are coming up to the plate. What I'd like to see is maybe starting to pitch backwards if you can dial that breaking ball. And I know that he had a really effective changeup last inning, but try and mix in that breaking ball as well.
Almost using the strength against the Highlanders, if you will, as there's a strike.
Well, not only are they swing aggressive early in the count, but they've shown that they can hit the ball hard on the ground too. So, you know, they're seeing that fastball relatively well right now.
Sully Tibbs, who's not from Monsters, Inc., but is from growing up in Forest, Virginia. Mike Wazowski and crew.
He might have two eyes, though.
Sully Tibbs gets the start at second base today. He's played 3 different spots on the infield this year for Radford. That count evens. What must Rio Britton do here to calm things down after a rough first inning?
Well, you know, I've noticed that, like, with his off speed, he's had one really good one and then one more so in the dirt. What he needs to do is try to find some consistency. I would say the difference is probably made when he comes out, you know, with his warm-ups. He's shown that he can throw the fastball in the strike zone consistently. I would come out next inning with my warm-ups just off speed, off speed, off speed.
There's the fastball, another pop fly. Nolan comes in. He's there for the second out.
You know, there were times that when I was pitching and, you know, when I was a starter my senior year, I'd be coming out and I'd have multiple innings where I'd have to throw those 5 to 8 warm-up pitches. I knew that if I was struggling to throw strikes with my off-speed the inning prior, that's what I was primarily throwing with my warm-ups that next inning.
Two outs for Zach Whitaker, who gets the start in center. He's about as old school as a player as you're going to see on this Radford roster. He's played left, right, center, short, and second this year. And in his career, he's played third and first, all of the infield and outfield positions minus catcher, which is a lost art in college baseball. I appreciate players like Zach Whitaker.
Well, it makes it so much easier for the coaching staff, too, that you can plug a guy, you know, in multiple different spots.
Whitaker's hitting .273. And blasts one out to center. There's Parker Nolan. Highlighted him in the open, and he makes 2 outs quickly defensively. Radford goes down in the order as we head to the bottom of the second in a 3-0 game. The Radford Highlanders have some work to do on defense. 16 errors earlier. One player who stood out is Miles Levere over here at third base. First-year starter on the infield. Shoemaker fills some big holes of David Bryant, all-conference shortstop, and we noted Zach Whitaker, a tremendous athlete in the outfield.
Yeah, and I've noticed that they talk about how they can kind of put him in a couple different spots, and that allows you to actually play the one position he's playing right now, which is center. He knows kind of what the rest of the team needs to be doing in terms of where they need to be based on a certain batter, where they should be playing a certain batter.
Whitaker's a team captain, and he said from day one, Whitaker asked, where can I play? Not, I want to play this position, but where can I help the team? As Noah Souls takes ball 1.
Well, as the coaching staff, that's refreshing too, because first of all, it just shows how selfless you are versus being selfish. But I mean, your want to just help the team really solidifies yourself kind of in that lineup as well.
Again, the max effort pitching of Williams. It's an inning plus in. It took 22 pitches to get through the first. It was no easy task.
Right back out and react. Go, kid. Throw that barrel.
Now Souls out of the 6th spot tonight for Elliott Avent. Rips a line drive. This ball has some carry, but it comes back to earth. It's a loud first out. A little different than what we saw yesterday with the wind blowing out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think yesterday the wind played a huge factor with some of their at-bats, but I think really the wind did help once it got up into that jet stream. Right now you're having absolutely nothing blowing out to the outfield. Which
as the pitcher, I imagine gives you a ton of confidence when you see a ball like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not much wind today, Cotton. Very dry. Typically winds 10, 12 miles an hour, gusting out to left. They call it the Doak Stream here in Raleigh. And Nolan hits a rocket to second base. No wind there. Sully Tubbs is all over it.
You know, I think what this is also going to come down to in the next inning or so is I think it really needs to be a well-coached team. And the reason why I say that is you can see their offense right now. State's offense is able to see that ball really well. They're able to square it up. How long are you going to keep Williams on the bump? You know, after once through the lineup twice, I'm not sure. It's kind of, they're hitting it right at position players. So they're able to see this ball really well come out of Williams' hand. I think it's just going to take, you know, once through the lineup for them to start to actually manufacture something here.
Cannon Peebles up with 2 outs. This is Peebles' 3rd start behind the plate, 4th start overall. 1 home run, 3 RBI for the true freshman out of Ashland, Virginia. it's a tough ask when you're Peoples. Hey, can you replicate and fill the void of Jacob Cozart, who had multiple home runs? He was hitting at a tremendous clip with these back-to-back midweek games.
But what you have to do is you can't let, your other catcher kind of, and what he's done so far in the beginning of the season, really get the best of you. All you have to do is stay within yourself, kind of execute your plan and play your game.
Peoples, first team All-State out of Hanover High School in Virginia. As he watches strike three. Whoa, a little backwards K there from Colin Williams to end the inning. And Radford is up to the task. The Highlanders have trekked down from Virginia, and a 3-0 lead following this beautiful breaking ball. This NC State program an 8-0 start, rising up to 21st in the country. Big test now in the midweeks, down to Elliot Avon and his staff. They understand they've started 8-0 back-to-back years, but you can't take an opponent lightly. All of a sudden, they're down 3-0 to Radford.
Yeah, absolutely not. But, in a way, this is actually really good for them, because I don't think, so far the first 8 games of the season, they've really been tested. You really want to have to fight through some adversity and be battle tested, especially going into conference play 2 weekends from now. So I think this is going to build them, and depending on what happens today, I think that'll give them kind of another notch on their tool belt on something they can be happy about.
So Baker Nelson enters for his 59th career outing. It's a 5-year tenure. Nelson's developed into a reliable arm out of the NC State pen. What do they expect from Nelson today?
Well, you can use him in a bunch of different, situations. He's come in kind of more situationally. They've also used him in long relief. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in, depending on what happens with NC State's offense, he could be looking at 4-0 so far out of the pen.
Nelson with 3 wins. You bring up a great point. Leads the country in wins as he smokes a fastball by Tristan Shoemaker. 12 was the magic number for most wins in the country last year. Imagine if a bullpen arm had 12 wins. That would be next level. We last saw Nelson on the 24th, so last weekend against Belmont, 2 2/3, and he earned the win in mop-up duty. So this ball's poked out to right. It dies instantly. And Candelaria is there to make the catch. So there's Elliot Avon. A little different demeanor and a look from the 27th year head coach at NC State. You've seen that look from Avon before. What's that type of Elliot Avon?
I think what he's doing right now is I think he's really looking at the Baker Nelson. He's also looking at the defense and seeing how they're going to respond to this, given that they haven't had this opportunity so far this year to have to work back and come back from something.
Typically, we see Avon standing up with his coaches in that front railing. It's a different look. Not like it's uncommon, but it's a little different today.
I mean, I've known him for, 8-9 years now.
As Garrett Pancione flies out to right.
And there's nothing that would surprise me in terms of why he does what he does. It's always unpredictable. It's always unexpected. Sometimes you think you know what he's thinking, and I'd say most of the time you don't. But it's kind of hit or miss with Avon, I'll tell you that.
As he nears 1,000 career victories at NC State, needs 30 more to reach the threshold. 970 in his tenure. And now Julian Rojas, he goes after the first pitch. So the trend continues for Radford, uber aggressive at the plate.
Well, you know, too, NC State's pitching staff, if they're able to get ahead in the count, they're going to put you away. So I think one approach that Radford's taking right now is try and get on, but the way to get on is going to be early in the batter's count.
Rojas watches one down the middle. All of a sudden, down 0-2, choking up on the bat.
You know, and Nelson's got a really good breaking pitch. I'd like to see something low and away, potentially not quite in the dirt.
Instead, down the middle. Good snag, Harrison. Great throw to first. NC State flashing the leather in the third inning.
It's a good piece of defense right there.
Eli Harrison wrapping things up. There's a look at Alex Guerra, first-year head coach at Radford, an alum of the university. He was an assistant under a championship-level program in 2015. Now he comes back to Radford, former middle infielder. I love these stories of coaches looking to rebuild their own program.
Yeah, and it's great. It's kind of you love to hear it, especially because the component that he played at Radford. But you know, to turn this program around too, he has the vision for it, and I think it's not going to be an overnight fix, but I think they're really going to like what happens when he's kind of the skipper for the staff.
He came in this summer from James Madison as the associate head coach. So from the Sun Belt to the Big South, and his Highlanders have come to play. Here's Kalai Harrison, who, just like we queued it up, make a great play on defense. And if this was SportsCenter, he'd come to the plate and get a base hit. His defensive range is underrated.
Yeah, I mean, so far, I know he's hitting right now, but when he was at second base last inning and the inning before, he flashed range on both sides of kind of that hole right there. He was able to go towards first base, able to go up the middle.
And he works the count 3-0. Harrison's reached base in 6 straight games. He looks to make it 7.
Boy, no!
That just clipped the corner.
Hey, don't get it to him, man. Make it earn it.
And look, Avon's back over on his railing. He's like a cat. He just floats around.
Oh, yeah. No, I think he definitely disagreed with that one.
Let's see how the 3-1 unfolds. So a walk to lead off the third for Harrison.
A little bit of action here in the bullpen. I don't know what the intensity is of this bullpen pitcher's warm-up, but I'm not sure what the leash looks like with Williams today, so I'm not really thinking.
Radford's already peeking out with some defensive signals, check into the pen. Williams' career-long outing is 1 inning. This is his second career effort. Wagner last week, now against NC State, top 25. And now a bunt attempt laid down by Candelaria. That's a good one. And the throw pulls off the first baseman, Gilmore.
You know, and to be honest, if that's a throw that's going to keep first base on the bag, I would argue that Candelaria was going to be there regardless. I mean, he was booking it down first base line. Great placement, too. You probably want that to be a little bit deeper into the infield, but, I mean, you can't really ask for anything better than that, especially a lefty that you have those 3 extra feet.
So Peyton Green hits 2 on, nobody out, following NC State's first hit of the game. Now another bunt that rolls foul. You could tell there Green's bunting for the hit, not necessarily to move the runners over.
Well, I think this is interesting too, because this is when you're going to see Radford have to play their infielders have to play their position. You're forcing them to crash. It's a little bit different of a dynamic right now.
And no one drives in more runs in the ACC than Peyton Green. 15 batted in. This is his strength. So this seems intentional from Green. Not necessarily called, but part of the game plan to move these runners over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're working with no outs right now, so I think that's the biggest factor that you have to look at. If it was different with, 1 out or 2 outs, you may not be actually throwing down the bunt right there.
Think of this, 15 RBI this year, only 39 as a freshman. He's having a great sophomore year. His control becomes a slight factor for Colin Williams.
What I like, though, kind of going back to that bunt attempt, is that this is one of your hottest bats in the lineup. You would think that he could score guys based on just, swinging and getting hits. I mean, talk about being selfless and being able to throw down a bunt and try and sacrifice yourself.
Green, the tying run at the plate. It's a good pitch. That 88 seems a little more oomph and some juice than what we've looked on the radar.
Yeah, Williams tends to stay closed as long as he possibly can, and then you kind of throw your arm out there with that release point. So it almost looks like that fastball jumps up on you faster than it actually is.
Green goes down on the slider. That's a great breaking pitch. And the second strikeout for Williams.
And that's something that you don't tend to see with NC State's offense is their strikeout numbers aren't, they're not inflated. They're not that much, to be honest with you. They're a very aggressive team.
How about this? 4 walks to every 1 strikeout for NC State this year.
You don't tend to see that. If anything, you probably see it on the reverse.
Gino Groover hits as the tying run following the strikeout. And now Williams is working tempo. He's taking more time. He's slowing down his delivery. He's trying to play the mental game against his NC State order.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that their base runners haven't tried to do anything so far, especially with that slower delivery, a little bit higher leg kick.
It does present an option for Harrison at second and Candelaria. And right on cue, a back pick to first.
And I know that Pancione is one of their better guys defensively, but I mean, as a freshman, I would challenge just the inexperience right there and try to see if maybe he'll throw the ball away. That'll actually get you another run. So,
a little different story than yesterday's 14-0 win. This is a Radford club testing NC State in the third. That is called inside. Williams nearing 50 pitches. Second career outing. First start in a Radford uniform.
You want to be smart right here if you're Groover. You've seen this offense so far today, kind of get under the ball. Fly ball is 2-0. You want to look for that fastball kind of right down the middle and see if you can actually do some damage.
Good stop on 3-0 as the bullpen starts to warm up for Radford. none other than the nation's leader in appearances, Ty Burton, 7 outings in 8 games. We knew he'd be a factor. All of a sudden could be in the 3rd inning. Now Williams in some trouble on 3-0. Takes a slow step out of the tunnel. I call it climbing the mountain. 3-0 to a power hitter in Groover with double-figure home runs. This is no easy task.
Not at all.
Now the 3-1. Runners take off. And that ground ball gets through. Smart decision by Harrison. He scores. And NC State on the board with the RBI single.
You know, that's a 3-1 pitch. Normally, if you're going to make contact on that, you want to try and square it up. But, I mean, the thing with Groover is he's such a mature hitter. He's able to put that ball and place that ball kind of through the hole. He doesn't have to hit it hard if he hits it in the right spot.
RBI number 10 for Groover. And he had to avoid Harrison, who was skating his way through the base path. It's a perfectly placed base hit. And now Radford will execute the bullpen. When we come back, the nation's leader in appearances will add on to his tenure. Good words from Alex Guerra congratulating the true freshman. And now a big-time spot for one of the best relievers in the country. Ty Burton enters, the graduate senior, when we come back here in Raleigh. In the words of LeBron James, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 appearances for Ty Burton out of the bullpen for Radford. He had 24 outings last year and looks to get out of a tough jam here in the 3rd.
Yeah, this definitely seems to be Radford's guy out of the bullpen. I mean, so far he's pitched in just about every game that they've played this year. It just shows the trust that the coaching staff, especially the pitching coach, has in this individual right here. So I think they're obviously using him to get out of this jam and then see if they can make him last a few extra innings.
Burton's pitched in all games over the weekend, and this is a tough task for any pitcher. Now you're asking the most reliable arm, 10 innings of work, 11 strikeouts. An NC State offense that's slowly come to life, their first 2 hits of the inning.
I think State needs to have really smart at-bats right here, and what I mean by that is you want to make the pitcher throw as much as he can. I mean, with the usage that Radford's got out of him so far, he could get tired earlier.
Well, Marcy watches the bender drift outside.
You know, if you're State's offense, if you're their lineup, you really want to make the pitcher throw strikes right now. If he's not really around the zone, don't swing at it. Don't get him out of this jam.
Burton back to that frisbee slider. Trying to match the mark of Sean Rapp from North Carolina. 42 appearances in 22. That led the nation. He already has 8. And we're 9 games into the year. Remarkable stuff. Runners take off, and that's a hit by pitch. So the bases are loaded with 1 out.
And another thing to think about, and I know that he's one of their go-to guys out of the bullpen, but this might be the key for State right here is to get to their bullpen. With them using 6 or 7 guys yesterday, I don't know how deep that bullpen is today, And this isn't the type of lineup that you want to have kind of your lesser experienced guys thrown against.
Radford expected to use between 6 and 8 arms today. Here's their most reliable. Ty Burton, bases loaded. Carter tries, nearly hit by a pitch. And that was some Houdini work from Poncioni to keep it in front of him.
And I don't know, like I said earlier, I don't know if the amount that they've used him so far this year has anything to do with it. It almost looks like he's kind of tired up there. You know, he's thrown so much this year.
Pitched an inning and 2/3 yesterday. And gives up a ground ball. Good snag by Levere. This throw to first escapes the threat. Pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Radford keeps this a 3-1 game. How about the Highlanders? Lose by 15 yesterday, and a good start here through 3.
That's exactly what you need out of your bullpen right there, just to come in and get some outs. Great job.
Third baseman Miles Levere puts on a heck of a defensive showing to keep this a 3-1 game for Radford. First-year transfer from Prince George's Community College. And these are the type of plays Radford will need to make to stay in this game.
Yeah, not only was it a pitching effort with Burton on the mound, but, you know, you need to minimize your mistakes. You have to make plays and get outs.
So a good strike started to Peyton Henry as Baker Nelson continues. Baker Nelson throws about everything you can imagine as that ball whiffles into the plate.
It's hard to expect what comes because he can throw just about any pitch in any different count.
He goes fastball that time. Nelson throws from 3 different arm angles. He's integrated that splitter, also the knuckleball. He throws a lot of different stuff than your traditional pitches. That's a tough swing out of the zone, and Henry gets a base hit. Third hit for the Highlanders today.
You know, and I'd like to see him start to actually maybe mix in more breaking ball or off speed when he's in a pitcher advantage count. You saw last inning, you know, Kalai Harrison made a great play on that ball up the middle, but that was a semi-hard hit ball up the middle due to being a fastball in a 1-2 count. Same thing right there, 1-2 count. He went to the fastball. I know he's been pitching backwards, but I'd like him to try and finish off batters with an off speed.
That is called a strike to Paul Moore. Those are tough, right? The umpire has to interpret the zone, and when the catcher's up and there's some fake movement.
Yeah, there's so many external factors that kind of take his attention away to what the actual strike zone is. So, I mean, you have to try your best to be consistent in calling these pitches.
Did Moore go? He did not. That'll even the count.
And I thought actually with the break of that pitch right there, I thought it almost hit his back foot. That just goes to show the bite that breaking pitch had. There
are conversations about stuff rankings in the country. LSU, ECU have two of the best arms with the stuff, movement, velo. Baker Nelson right on that list as that pitch just dived into the dirt.
I mean, you can see how that's almost kind of like at the belt or starts right at the belt or above the belt. And it just absolutely falls off the table. It takes kind of just like a straight downward action. Same thing right here, 1-2. I'd like him to try and throw that off speed again and see if he can get the guy out.
The 1-2 is nubbed in front of the plate. This is a difficult play, and everyone's safe on the infield single. Really no chance for the pitcher there, and Peebles has to run 50 feet up the line.
Yeah, that's really tough placement. I don't know. I mean, if I'm looking at this again, I'd like to think that, you know, it's a high chopper, so that takes some time too. But I don't know how aggressive Peebles was in actually getting to that. I mean, that's something that initially you want to try and call as early as possible.
And that ball took a hop forward. Like, Nelson's expecting it to stop so his catcher can scoop and throw, and then it carries an extra 10 feet.
This is a situation that Nelson's been in before, though. He comes in with runners in scoring position often.
Now Radford looking for small ball as Miles Levere made a great play a moment ago, double play to end the threat. Now he gets his second at bat. Leads this Radford team with 3 doubles. Just hit the top of the zone. Back-to-back singles for the Highlanders. And Levere is up in the count. The bunt is still a factor here, even on 2-1.
2-1, but there's also no outs, and they've been proven to actually manufacture kind of RBIs so far today.
Levere takes ball 3, and Peebles now a conversation with Nelson.
You know, if I'm Nelson, I'm really I want to focus on Levere and try to get that out. Maybe force some sort of action here, because, you know, you have that unofficial rule that you shouldn't make that first or third out at third base. Not saying that they're going to try and do something right now, but I would use that and kind of just focus my efforts on trying to get the batter out right here.
Now on 3-1, Levere takes to load the count.
Not necessarily paying no attention to the run game right now, but you really want to do what you can to try and manufacture it out of the plate.
Got him swinging. Runner takes off. Both get 90 feet. And if you're Radford, you almost take that trade-off after the strikeout from Nelson.
What it essentially is, it's a sac fly, a sac ground ball, or a sac bunt. He was basically sacrificing himself and gotten out, but moved the runners over right there. What you need to see a little bit more with NC State's defense is trying to communicate a little bit more.
I didn't see much coverage there defensively.
No.
Now Ryan Gilmore hits in a crucial RBI chance. The infield is pinched at the corners for NC State. Could small ball be a factor here for Gilmore?
And any contact they've had off that breaker has been soft contact, and that's what you want with the infield in right here. You want to try and hold that runner at third. You know, you want to check him and then try and get that out at first.
First-year transfer Ryan Gilmore from Brookdale Community College up in the New York area. Hits with 2 on. And a 2-1 count. This has been the bugaboo for Radford all season, hitting with runners in scoring position. Today they're 1 for 5, but this is a crucial spot. Gilmore's in an ideal count, 3-1.
You want to be really selective. The past 2 or 3 pitchers, Nelson struggled to kind of really get that fastball down, but this is what he's going to have to throw in the 3-1 count most likely.
A fastball popped up. This is back towards us and out of play.
Not necessarily a bad pitch to swing at. Fastball kind of over the plate, but got under it a little bit. If you're going to swing at a fastball over the plate on a 3-1 count, you better make sure it's in play, trying to get some distance on that. So even if it's a pop fly, get it to the outfield and let your runner tag.
The 3-2 misses, and the bases are loaded. That wasn't even close. Think of Radford in the first inning, 3 runs, pardon me, Sean. Now pressure in the 4th. This is exactly what Coach Alex Guerrero wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, on the inverse with NC State right here, what you want to be looking for is you want to try and force a ground ball, which for the most part, that's what Nelson's been able to do with their contact outs. You got 1 out, you got bases loaded. Hopefully NC State is able to kind of turn a double play and get out of this jam, just like Radford did last inning.
Alex Guerrero just called timeout to talk to Sully Tibbs. Tibbs is a true freshman. This may be, given the circumstance, the score of the opponent, the biggest at-bat of his life in his college career.
I'd say it's probably a safe bet, given that he's only been, you know, a college baseball player for about 8 games.
He's only had 10 at-bats entering today, and now in his 12th appearance. Bases loaded, chance to break this game open. And he fouls it off. A little more oomph from Baker Nelson there, 92, a little giddy up.
You want to be careful. You don't want to be so max effort where you're wild. You know, you don't want anything going past Peoples, especially with a runner 90 feet away.
Breaking ball drilled into the cap, and Tibbs delivers 2 runs for the Highlanders. It's 5-1 on the RBI single.
Nelson kind of left that ball up, and I mean, even though Tibbs is a freshman, he's able to kind of extend that bat and take it the other way. Ball kind of crossed the plate right over the belt.
Look at that dugout reaction. This is a team that lost by 15 runs yesterday, Virginia Tech, a re-energized group.
Well, that hit really, you know, it provided a spark, and that's going to keep that momentum high, essentially.
A Radford team picked dead last in the Big South entering the year. Looking much more rejuvenated today. And now team captain and all standout player Zach Whitaker, who's played 5 different spots this year.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they challenge Nelson and Peebles right here. I mean, you got 1 out, you got runners on the corner, so there's so many different things you can do in terms of a run game right now to try and, you know, get your guys in scoring position or even deke them so you can score that runner from third.
Zach Whitaker takes outside. That's a great point, testing NC State's defense. A little first to third action, try to score a run from third if he can steal a run here.
And this isn't something that they've seen a whole lot of this year, just because their pitching game has been able to shut down a lot of guys. They haven't been able to, you know, the opposition hasn't been able to get on base a whole lot against NC State's pitching staff.
Entered the game 2nd in the country in ERA. And now Coach Elliot Avon comes out with the bullpen warming. Sam Heifel warming up. This might be a quick hook for Elliot Avon. And I don't think this is how Avon drew up his bullpen plan, being down 5-1 in the 4th.
No, I mean, probably not, just because what's happened so far this season is that NC State hasn't been trailing. They haven't been able to have to hold runners and protect that run game. But they're working back.
So Avon speaking to his senior, leaving Nelson in the game. And typically that's a Clint Chrysler trip, so Avon had an important message there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing with Avon is, even though Chrysler's your pitching coach and he's going to, you know, primarily make those visits, if Avon sees something that he wants to talk to the pitcher about, he's going to make that. He's going to call time and he's going to make that visit and he's going to, you know, say what he needs to say.
I love that swing from Zach Whitaker. 3-0 fastball coming. He's taking his best shot today.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, 3-0, especially with a 4-run lead right now, sometimes your coach is going to give you the green light right there.
Now the 3-1. Another good swing. Whitaker sitting fastball here from Nelson. Now the payoff. Runners break. This ground ball will only get 1. As Groover makes a nice play. It's 6-1 Radford on the Whitaker ground out.
You know, and I know Whitaker's probably their most experienced bat, being a senior, and he probably wishes that was more of a hard hit ball, maybe in the gap. But I mean, he essentially did his job, sacrificed himself as an out, but scored a run.
And hit it to the right spot where NC State couldn't turn to.
That's right.
And now Clint Chrysler will make the pitching change. So NC State forced to go to the bullpen here in the 4th inning. And one of their best starters from years past turned to reliever now. Sam Heifel comes out of the pen. We'll introduce you to Sam, known as the mayor of Apex around here in Raleigh. And he'll enter when we come back on ACC Network Extra. Junior right-hander Sam Heifel enters out of the bullpen. This is his 29th career appearance. Former weekend starter turned reliever, situational arm, and now he faces a tight spot with runners on for Radford.
Yeah, and you said, you mentioned he was a former starter turned reliever. I don't even necessarily know if that is truly the case, just because I think where you can put him in terms of the pitching rotation or the bullpen, you can put him essentially anywhere. You talk about a horse in a big spot. He's the guy that you really want to go to out of NC State's pitching staff that could apply to any situation. I think this is honestly probably the guy to go to in this situation, given that there's a 5-run trail.
So Heifel comes in for Baker Nelson, who had his worst outing this year at NC State. A solid relief effort coming in, but gives up 3 runs. And now it's up to Heifel in the 4th.
And you're not always going to have your best stuff, and I think I've seen better stuff out of Baker Nelson, but to be honest with you, there was a couple kind of iffy hits. You had that weak ground ball that just scored that last run. You kind of had that swing and bunt that was kind of a high chopper. There was, communication error right there. So, some of that stat line right there might be a little inflated depending on what happened, but, not necessarily his best stuff.
So Tristan Shoemaker hits with another run-scoring opportunity. He is late on 92. Heifel 2 scoreless against Belmont, inning in a 3rd scoreless at Coastal. And the velocity is certainly there for Heifel early.
And it's not just the stuff. He's got the velocity. He's got good bite on his breaking ball. He's got good feel for his other pitches, but it's the pitch ability. He can pitch in and out, up and down. His ability to hit his spots and pitch to location really is what actually gets his success.
Did he go? Yes, he did. Heifel, 3 quality pitches.
It's a great fastball up right there. Got the guy to kind of check swing.
Radford strikes for 3 more runs. Situational hitting early. Sully Tibbs clearing the bases with a clutch hit, and it's 6-1 Radford as we go to the bottom of the 4th. We begin the bottom of the fourth as Noah Souls hits in a 5-run deficit. Ty Burton, who got out of that jam last inning for Radford, continues work here in the fourth. The nation's leader in relief appearances. And these aren't just one-out outings. It's 2 innings, 4 outs, 5 outs. He's been a reliable arm for Radford.
He's been able to be a situational guy out of the bullpen for them, as well as more of a long relief kind of bridge guy.
Which in college baseball is so much more utilized. Long relief, finding guys who can get you 3 innings and get out of a jam.
Yeah, it's crazy to see, and you tend to see kind of it start at the major league level, and then usually the kind of the trend that happens, it trickles down to college and JUCO and stuff like that. But you see a change in the role of the bullpen guy.
Slow roller to second. And a nice job to get the first out. And that's what's important about bullpen arms, having those long relievers that can not only get you 3 outs in the 9th, but get you 6 outs in the middle of the game, be dynamic throughout the contest. It reminds me of Coastal Carolina's championship run from 2015.
16.
Or 16, that's right. 15-16 season. Had a sidearm righty through 80 innings, 50 appearances.
I think it was Morrison. I forgot his first name. Adam Morrison, yeah.
Not Gonzaga's Adam Morrison.
No. There was a lot of difference in hair. Gonzaga's Adam Morrison had a bowl cut. Adam Morrison at Coastal, I think he was a baldy.
One way to fill those roles is by finding transfers. And Parker Nolan out of Davidson, a big piece. Look at all the starters. 4 offensively. Britton gets the start. Part of a dynamic transfer class. It's how you reload in college baseball.
You know, and this is kind of an obvious statement, but the one commonality between all these transfer students is that they played before, they have experience. And I think it's a little bit easier to put a guy into your lineup because they've seen college baseball a little bit more so than some of the younger guys.
High pop-up. Gilmore gives chase. I'll run out of room.
You know, so far Burton's been really effective low in the zone. His fastball, his off speed. I mean, any of his misses too, they've been kind of more around like in between the ankles and the knees. I mean, that's where you really want to be. I'm really impressed that he's been able to command the zone, especially with how much they've utilized him so far. If anything, I thought he was going to have a little bit more fatigue.
After an inning and 2/3 yesterday, Burton gives up a fly ball. This will stay in the park for Whitaker. And the ballpark, not very kind to power numbers today. There's the second out. Remember, NC State's offense entered this game 17 home runs. That was top 15 in the country. We had lauded coming into the year, not an offense that had lived and died by the home run. See if they can find it as Cozart checks in for Cannon Peebles. This is a big offensive substitution.
And I think the difference between today so far and what we've seen versus the past 8 games that we've seen out of State's offense is that their ability to initially get on due to their own good rather than the pitcher giving them kind of a free pass with walks. And that's the thing is, you know, they need to earn their way on and then try and manufacture runs, which they haven't been able to do so far today.
Jacob Cozart, red hot. 5 runs batted in yesterday, including 3 hits. And more importantly, those hits were blasted. 400-foot home run to center, followed up with a double and a single. Productive day. You can tell David needs some offense bringing Cozart in the 4th inning.
Well, what it does is it tells you the confidence that Avent has in Cozart being able to plug him in the situation right now. I mean, we're almost halfway through this game, and they're still trailing, you know, 5 runs, and you need to kind of try to change that momentum. And you want to put one of your more experienced bats in to see if they can do that, provide that spark in the lineup.
Those were yesterday's insane numbers. As that's taken for strike 3. Ty Burton mowing down the Wolfpack. 1, 2, 3. The nation's leader in relief appearances, living up to the title so far. Entertaining Wednesday of baseball. Radford's come to play, entering this game 2-6, leading top 25 NC State 6-1 as we go to the 5th inning. And these two we expect. You're not going to roll over competition just showing up at the ballpark. I think it's a good test for both teams today.
Yeah, they definitely came out really, really feisty. They were really hungry too.
And the NC State pitching staff have been as good as any team in the country entering today. Second in ERA, second in WHIP, walks and hits per inning. A little different story. 5 hits allowed. And now it's up to Sam Heifel here in the 5th. Because any more runs for Radford would be huge in the middle of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. It just makes it so much harder for State to stay in this game. You know, from the pitching perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to ride Heifel as long as they possibly could. You have
a base hit for Garrett Pension to lead it off. So the Radford's freshman catcher, another hit. It's his second.
You know, you have Radford with Burton on the mound. You know, when they're out playing defense, and he's going to try and hold the fort down as long as he can. But with how much they use him, I have a feeling they're going to have to go to their pen, which I don't know how.
No, I'm going to counter. Burton's going to pitch the next 7 innings. He's going to pitch till the night ends. He's the nation's leader in appearances. His arm is pure rubber band. It's incredible.
I was wrong when I didn't think he was going to last as long as he did, just because the amount of play he's had so far, you know, this year.
11 innings in 8 outings for Burton. This is over a 2.5-week span. And now Julian Rojas, the DH today. Takes advantage of a fastball. This is high into the air towards Peyton Green, who gives way for his outfielder, and Noah Souls has it.
It's good communication right there with Souls. That's easier for him to get to because he's kind of moving in on the ball where Peyton Green's kind of moving backwards, especially with such a steep angle fly ball. That's really tough for someone that's moving back on the ball to try and catch.
You see Noah Souls there after the play, making sure he's on the same page with his infield. And now Peyton Henry hits with 1 out. He's 1 for 2 with a single back in that 3-run 4th. Now he drives one into the air. Nolan comes in. All of a sudden the sun gets real bright, but no one's there to make the catch. So Ty Burton keeping that arm rested. Getting some stem treatment, trying to stay warm. That's a look of a pitcher who says, hey, coach, give me every inning you got.
And he might be done, to be honest with you, because if you're still pitching, if you're still in the game, you're usually sitting on the bench just trying to rest as much as possible.
Another fly ball should end the inning. Here's Will Marcy giving chase to the catcher, who lets Groover come in. Everybody involved, but Gino Groover there to make the catch on a bright 5th inning. A lot of pop flies in the air. We'll go to the bottom half with Radford up 5. The nation's leader in appearances, Ty Burton, back-to-back days throwing an inning in 2/3. I got to say, job well done by the senior, grinding this game out and keeping his team up 5.
Yeah, he was able to come in a really crucial clutch spot and was able to shut down NC State. You know, a little bit of help from the defense too, but I mean, normally it's going to be a team effort, but my hat's off to Burton. I thought he did a great job.
So Christiansburg, Virginia native, that is 5 minutes outside of Radford. Clayterbaugh comes in to pitch. And what a spot for Clayterbaugh, because NC State's offense has been quiet all day. 1 run on 2 hits. We told you coming in, top 10 in scoring in the country. They're bound to break out. Tough assignment for the freshman.
Yeah, I don't know how deep Radford's bullpen is, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here, just because they've used so many guys in the past few days. But what they're throwing at them is they're throwing a bunch of different arm angles. They've had, you know, their starter from the left side, then you had Burton kind of a 3/4, kind of with some movement. Now you have a dude over the top.
He gives up a line drive to center. That gets past Whitaker. It'll roll to the wall. Harrison has wheels. Harrison looking for 3. He holds with a leadoff triple.
It's a great piece of hitting right there by Harrison. And on the defensive end, I'm kind of surprised that Whitaker went for that ball, being a senior, having so much experience. A ball with that low of a launch angle, you know it's coming in kind of with a little bit of speed rather than coming in straight down. If you're going to go for that ball, you better know you're going to catch it, because if you don't, that's going to the wall.
That's the spark NC State needed here in the 5th.
That just gave him 2 extra bags.
As Trevor Candelaria now hits, top of the order for NC State. Clatterbaugh last pitched against Wagner over the weekend. 2 1/3, no runs. Little different task here against an NC State order that's hitting .335 as a team. Good 2-seamer for a strike. Clatterbaugh did pitch against ACC competition. Inning scoreless, 2 strikeouts versus North Carolina. That was a mop-up duty of a 14-2 loss. Good stab at third. The only play to first, and that is just in time. Does make it 6-2 NC State on the RBI ground down.
Hard hit ball to the left side, definitely did his job scoring the runner, but you got Levere over there at third base that's been holding it down. He's been making plays, diving, and he's been making good throws to first base to get a lot of these outs.
Miles Levere, not 1, but 2 nice defensive snags.
And that's what you need too out of your defense. I mean, not to say that if that ball gets through, that's going to be ruled as an error, but I mean, you want to take a hit away from a guy essentially too.
Green pops it up. Much easier play for Whitaker. And 2 quick outs, back-to-back pitches. That's an important moment too, because you give up the run, the crowd gets into the game, and boom, a quick out quiets this NC State faithful.
2 quick outs too. I mean, it essentially sucked the energy out of NC State's offense. What you want to do is, you know, when there's a big hit that happens on the opposition, you want to do everything you can to minimize anything after that, which is what they've done so far.
4th appearance for Clay Clatterbaugh. And he's 1 pitch away from escaping the 5th as LeJames Groover now hits. And Groover drills the first pitch. Tracing back, and that gets past Peyton Henry. A sharp double for Groover. That's his 2nd double of the year for a 2-out base hit.
You know, with his arm angle, with Clatterbaugh's arm angle just kind of coming over the top, there's really not a whole lot of movement on that. You're getting more of a kind of a straight up to down fastball, which that's a relatively easier pitch to hit compared to what Burton had with some of his running, the deception that Williams had. So right here, Clatterbaugh's going to be a little bit more selective in where he's hitting his spots.
Groover's counting 3 extra base hits. Not 1, not 2, not 3. 2-out RBI chance for Will Marcy. That's our first look at the breaking ball from Clatterbaugh today.
You know, and Clatterbaugh too, being a freshman, you don't know how some of these freshmen react with holding guys on. I mean, it's a little bit easier almost when you have a runner only on third base, you know, like 2 batters ago. But, you know, second base, there's so many things that could happen.
Will Marcy has yet to pick up a hit with men in scoring position this year. 0 for 5. And in the heart of NC State's order, this is as good a chance as any. Largest deficit faced by NC State this year, down as much as 5. Slow roller. Nice scoop it short. Better throw to first by Shoemaker to end the inning. The Highlanders climbing the mountain through 5, playing some great defense early. We'll go to the 6th when we come back. The Radford Highlanders under Coach Alex Guerra, they hit the transfer portal hard. 15 new players, 7 transfers, 8 freshmen. Miles Levere, one of those first-year impact players. His defense has been really good. And this Radford team unafraid of the challenge today.
Absolutely, and I mean, I know he hasn't really done a whole lot at the plate today, but where his value's really been shown is at third base.
Now he drives the first pitch down the line. That goes foul.
Got a good piece of it. I mean,
He must have heard you.
Yeah, he probably did hear me. Probably didn't like what I had to say. But I mean, 0-2 so far today with a strikeout. Not as impressive versus being on his defensive work at third base. He's made some serious stops though.
Now he pops it up. Marcy gives way for Heifel. Whoa! It drops. And Marcy thought he heard footsteps. So a gift for Levere. Take me through that play. You're a pitcher. How does that happen?
So usually, you mentioned it could have been that Marcy's hearing footsteps. What I would do if I'm first base, that it's Marcy and Heifel going for that ball. If I'm first base, I'm calling that no matter what. Despite what I hear around me, I have to assume that Heifel is going to let me have that because first base is going to have priority there.
And at the last second, Marcy looked up like he had noticed someone said something, and he backed off. A lot of communication going on there.
Ideally, I want to catch, but if I had to pick the lesser of two evils, I would have rather had them both go for it and collide versus, no communication and just let that drop, because at least you're actually trying to get that out.
That's the growing pains of a first-year first baseman and a pitcher who hasn't thrown at NC State in a couple months as Levere pops this up. Parker Nolan covers a ton of ground. He's there for the first out. Radford's had a very fly ball heavy offense today. You look at overall just 3 ground ball outs, a ton of fly ball outs, a little high swings today.
Absolutely. They've been able to take the fastball and square it up and do semi-damage with it. They've been able to hit deep balls and really square the ball up with the bat. All of their ground balls, I'd be willing to bet, came from breaking balls. You're that breaking ball naturally is going to force the batter to kind of hit that ball lower.
Gilmore did not swing, so it's a 1-0 count. Sam Heifel, despite some of the tension and the drama of this game, he's been locked in his 3rd appearance of the year.
And he's a guy that's always going to have that kind of bulldog mentality. You don't necessarily see the intensity with him, but between the ears, he's going to be a guy that's just going to go attack, attack, attack right after the batter.
He spoke with Coach Elliott Avent this offseason, and Avent said, would you be interested in moving from the starting rotation to the bullpen? He said unequivocally, yes. I want to be out there. He's embraced the role and now has found himself a nice pressure, big inning, dynamic role out of the pen.
Absolutely, and whether he was a starter before, and now he's kind of primarily out of the bullpen. He knows that he's going to be in big spots, and that's where they're going to use him.
He shows it off with a fastball there. Another strikeout for Highfield. Give him 2. And he's been in these spots. Pitched in College World Series. He's been a weekend starter for 2 years. Now he's a high leverage arm.
And you would think, a 4-run, they're trailing by 4 runs. It's not necessarily stagnant right now, not necessarily no energy, but like this is a really big spot for NC State right now because you need a guy that you can rely on, potentially for the rest of the game while your offense tries to, piece something together.
Zeros are important, especially down 4 to a scrappy Radford Highlander team. This ball's poked out to right. There's Candelaria. And Sam Highfield, since entering out of the pen, he's retired 7 of 8. We'll go to the bottom of the 6th. Radford hanging on to a 4-run lead here in Raleigh. New arm out of the Radford bullpen. Left-hander out of Ontario by way of Peterborough, Ontario. Carter Seabrook, first year in the Radford program, a College of Central Florida. That's a Division II program transferred. We noted the 7 new players for Radford by the portal, and big inning for Seabrook with a 4-run lead.
It doesn't seem like Radford's pitching staff or their coaching staff is trying to go the matchup right here. You only have one lefty out of the next 4 batters. So, traditionally out of the bullpen, you want to go arm for bat in terms of left, right. But right now, they're just throwing whatever they got at, NC State's offense.
A Radford team playing with house money picked dead last in the Big South preseason poll. And playing way above expectations today. Remember, 2 ACC games for Radford this year. A 14-2 loss in Chapel Hill and a 17-2 loss in Blacksburg. Now in Raleigh, a different story. Change up, gets Carter Trice out in front. A Radford team that finished dead last in the league last year did not qualify for the tournament, and only 4 teams make the conference tournament in the Big South. Campbell, the reigning champions, at number 1. There's something to be said about playing these big non-conference games gearing up for Big South play.
Especially if you're Radford that's playing a team like NC State, Power 5, top Power 5 team, nationally ranked team. These are the wins right here. If they end up winning, they're going to make a difference in your RPI and what happens at the end of the year.
This is the front-heavy schedule for Radford. 4 ACC opponents in the first month. That's a good take by Carter Trice.
That's a great take. Absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that was a great take. You see that not the fastball. You see that breaking ball. It kind of starts, belt high, and it just sweeps across the plate, and it has some late break to it. So you have to have some plate discipline in order not to swing at that, especially 1-2 when you're trying to be defensive.
6 walks to 4 strikeouts for Trice. He has a good eye at the plate. And he works the count full. Trice is 0 for 2 today. Only 4 hits for NC State. This might be a 5th. High fly ball to left. And it comes back down to earth to Whitaker. The wind tried to push that out. It'll stay in for a loud first out.
Got under it just a touch. If he's able to square that up a little bit more, that's actually a run right there. I mean, the power was there. It was almost at the warning track.
Given Doak Field at Del Park's power numbers, I got fooled there on that fly ball. I'll admit it. Got to put that out there for the world to know.
Yeah. And we have the best seat in the house, and it's fooling us.
In yesterday's game, NC State had 3 home runs. 2 of those were for sure. One of those surprised all of us.
Could be questionable if there was no wind.
Here in the press box, a Wolfpack team that's blasted 17 home runs, but down 4 here in the 6th.
Yes, sir.
That's a good looking pitch. 1-1 to Noah Souls.
That's a great looking pitch, actually, and that was almost the same location as the first pitch that was actually a strike.
Carter Seabrook working hard out of the pen. Tries the slider that time.
He's got that big sweeping slider. I'd like that to be kind of more crossing over the plate. If he gets 1-2, then you can throw that slider in that location that he did right there and try and get swing and miss.
4th arm of the day for Alex Guerra's club. And inducing weak contact. Radford's played sharp defensively. Another 4-3 putout. No errors for Radford. They entered the game last in the Big South in fielding. This is definitely a change, but a big-time effort on the defensive end.
And I think that's made a huge difference, and that's really one of the biggest impact makers in the game today is their defense. They've been able to shut down anything that's happened with NC State's offense and getting on base, and they haven't let guys get on base either.
There's Alex Guerra in the number 9 jersey, a former Radfield infielder himself. Played shortstop and second base at Radford. Joined the coaching staff a couple years later under Joe Rakuya, won a conference title, then came back as an assistant, and now the head coach. Young head coach, too. High energy. Talked about effort and enthusiasm with his team. And when you start 2-6, you've been blown out, lost 5 straight. That energy can be tested in games like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's going on right now, though, is really putting some wind in Radford's sails. But you also have to know, too, we're 8 games into the season. This is only the 9th game of the season.
NC State knows that on the other end. An 8-0 start. They began 19-0 3 years ago. Doesn't necessarily mean you go to Omaha with a great start. You have to play consistent throughout the year.
Absolutely. And I mean, the first 20 or so, maybe 15, 20 games of the season, it's not going to be conference play. And with NC State having good local talent but not as good as their conference talent, it's easy to get to 19-0.
The schedule coming up, New Jersey Institute of Technology next week. And then it amps up at Miami the following weekend. ACC conference play, 9 ranked teams in multiple polls. That's half the league.
But I really think that the situation that State's in right now, that's really going to mimic what they'll see 2 weekends from now. I wouldn't be surprised if they were trailing in certain situations down in Coral Gables. That's just going to happen in conference play. Games are going to go back and forth. They'll be up in some situations. They'll be behind in some situations. As
Nolan draws the walk, how can NC State overcome this deficit? They haven't faced a 4-run deficit like this late in the game.
Well, they got a runner on right now, but what you really need to do is you need to get runners on early in the inning. What I mean by that is with lesser than 2 outs.
Jacob Cozart, his second at bat.
Because right now they're in a position where they can't sacrifice an out for a run or sacrifice an out to move a guy over. If you're able to get on with no outs or 1 out, then you can trade an out to move a guy over, trade an out for a run.
Cozart struck out his first time up after a home run yesterday. Now he blasts one into the air. Whitaker's all over it. And this is just what the doctor ordered if you're the Radford Highlanders, keeping NC State at bay. A top 10 scoring offense. The just 2 runs through 6. We'll go to the 7th here in Raleigh. Here's what we've seen so far. Radford with a big 3-run first, 3 more in the 4th. And NC State not as productive. 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 5th on the Groover and Candelaria RBIs. Radford's done everything right, no errors defensively as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the defensive portion of Radford's game today has really been what's made the most impact and has allowed them to kind of stay in the lead. I mean, 6 runs on an offense, that's not something that you would consistently expect, but you definitely don't expect a team like Radford to go up against NC State's offense and be able to hold them the way they're doing.
Sam Heifel continues to dazzle out of the bullpen. 2 in the 3rd, 2 strikeouts. Not much damage against him either. It does make you wonder, given Heifel's effectiveness, could he develop or does he want to move into a midweek starting role versus a midweek gap role?
You'd like him to be able to develop some stamina early in the season because I always feel like
that ball sneaks through a leadoff single for Zach Whitaker.
I always feel like it's easier to take a starter or someone that has longer stamina, higher stamina or durability, and put them in the bullpen and they can go shorter. It's a little bit more difficult to have a guy that, is only used to an inning or 2 and stretch them out, 5, 6, 7 innings.
Heifel has 13 wins on the mound. Those were all his starters the last 3 years. Now he looks to right the ship in the 7th inning. And it makes you wonder, will Radford pull out the small ball as Tristan Shoemaker slots in? Groover's already creeping in.
And the thing is, too, you have no outs. Radford got a guy, they got a guy on early in the inning. A 4-run lead is really nothing to feel comfortable about. NC State and their offense, they haven't been super electric with the bat today, but they have that potential to do that. So you want to try and keep on pushing more runs if you're Radford right now.
Here's the bunt. Because take me through this as a hitter. You want to push this to the first base side and move them over, correct?
Absolutely. You want the ball going away from kind of where the action is and where you're trying to actually, move your runner to.
As Groover continues to play in. Let's see if Shoemaker can execute in this moment. And if you're Heifel, you got to throw strikes as well. These are never easy as a pitcher. When the zone gets tight, the batter's trying to bunt.
Absolutely. But, the thing is, too, is, not that Shoemaker has tons of experience. He is a sophomore, though, so we know what it's like to be in this situation. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to throw the bunt out there, pulls the bat back, and actually squares the ball up. You're kind of messing with the infield.
This bunt goes in the wrong direction, and he knew it. I still think with 2 strikes, the bunt's in play here if you're Alex Guerra calling up the signs.
Potentially, because we're not looking at a tie game or a 1 or 2 run game. So you have a little bit more ease in trying to test that ability to see if you can, move a guy over via a bunt.
Second hit allowed by Heifel. Sets up a man at first, nobody out. Oh, there's the submarine angle. Strikeout for Heifel. He has that in his arsenal, and he used it for the first time tonight.
And that's a firm pitch right there with tons more movement kind of on the side angle versus coming on the top. I mean, that's still high 80s right there coming at you, moving in.
You could tell on the Radford bench, they said, well, we saw it in the scouting report, but we hadn't seen it yet.
Perfect opportunity and timely, chance to use it right there.
Now 1-out chance for Garrett Pancione. Runner off, popped up. Nolan has a long way to go, and he's got it for the second out. The ball's just not flying tonight in Raleigh.
And, I think someone that we haven't talked about a whole lot today that we have in the past, just because he's been so good out there, is Parker Nolan. I mean, a lot of balls have been hit more towards right at him, where he hasn't had to run a whole lot. But he is someone that just anytime the ball's hitting the gaps or straight, to center field, you know that you're going to get an out with him.
Come on, back.
2 outs for Julian Rojas. He stands about as far back in the batter's box as you'll see in college baseball. Right on top of that back of the box. And he rips a base hit. Clearly took the time he needed. So a 2-out single for Rojas. It's his first hit of the day. Radford has doubled NC State in hits today.
Come on, baby. Hey. 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 I got it right here. Come on, buddy. Let's go ahead, Pete. I'll save it.
Two on, 2 out for Peyton Henry.
Good job.
And he works ahead in the count. Radford has not touched Heifel all day. And now in the 7th inning, a little bit of pressure on the bases.
A little bit. He's someone, though, that's really comfortable holding guys on, runners in scoring position. You have 2 outs right here, though, so you really want to just focus on the batter. But, I mean, he doesn't get fazed by, the different situations.
Line drive. Candelaria has it fall in front. Here comes the runner to the plate, and Radford takes advantage. Back-to-back hits with 2 outs, and it's 7-2 Highlanders.
Good piece of hitting. I mean, if you're going to hit that in the outfield, you want to do that in right field to try and give that runner the best chance to score. Probably would have been a little bit easier play to make if Souls in left field was able to get that ball, but obviously that's a ball hit to the right field right there.
So Whitaker scores, and a rally, crucial 7th inning rally for Radford. Nine hits for the Highlanders, who only scored 2 runs yesterday against Virginia Tech. A little different tone here on Wednesday. And Radford's been aggressive on every first pitch. Doing the mental math, it's almost at like 75% of the time. They're being really aggressive.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, a lot of what they've been getting first pitch is first pitch fastball. So they, that most offenses can handle fastball. Even if you're kind of a lesser talented offense, most guys are going to be able to hit the fastball.
There's the breaking ball for strike 2.
And I'm kind of surprised that NC State's pitching staff so far today hasn't incorporated that breaker into a little bit more advantage counts for them, or even pitch backwards for the most part.
Sam Heifel on 0-2 gets the swing and a miss. Good tag behind the plate to end the inning. Not before Radford strikes for 1 and a 2-out RBI single. Time to stretch here at Doak Field at Dale Park. Radford up 5. Possible upset brewing in Raleigh here in the third week of the college baseball season. 2-6 Radford leading top 25 NC State by 5 runs as Carter Seabrook goes back to work. Kalai Harrison did not get hit by that pitch, but he'll work ahead. 9-1-2 in the Wolfpack order. NC State has dominated this series all time, losing just twice, and now Radford is 3 innings away from changing that narrative. Important spot for Harrison. He can get on. That's the first time NC State's had a leadoff man on since the 5th. A little pressure on Seabrook. Harrison is an on-base machine. When he leads off an inning, he gets on 63% of the time. Add to those numbers the leadoff walk.
I think what just happened really changed the dynamics of the game right now, because I think, what I mentioned earlier is if State's offense is able to get on early with less than 2 outs, I think their ability to score becomes a little bit, better, because you can do a couple different things now. You can steal, you can, hit and run, you can kind of just try and, swing away and see if you can move the runner over that way.
Last 2 times that Harrison has reached to lead off an inning, he has scored. Those are the only runs for NC State.
And I don't know if this is going to play a factor into what happens this defensive half for Radford, but you have Seabrook, who his delivery is his glove side doesn't kind of come tucked in. It kind of finishes more towards the thigh or the knee. And when you have a pitcher that's like that, the margin for error is a little bit bigger. Your ability to miss, is a little bit bigger. So you have that in the mix. You have a runner on first base now. There's so many things going on. You only have a 5-run lead. A lot of stuff to think about right now, so I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen, but how he's going to respond is really going to dictate what happens.
And with 2 arms warming in the Radford pen. Tough ass for Seabrook. Scott Rouse and Landon Higgerson.
Gosh, look at those pork chops.
Great hair. I love it. I'm all about it. Let it fly on a Wednesday night. That pitch, the miss is outside.
And you can see his misses are a little bit more exaggerated and bigger, and I think that has a little bit to do with his delivery.
Harrison on with the leadoff walk. Trevor Candelaria hits in a 2-1 count. 13 home runs last year as a transfer coming in from Davidson. Big time power. That's a nice take. You're sitting dead red here if you're the NC State hitter.
Yeah, I mean, you got a 3-1 count. It's got to be something good. His misses have been a little bit bigger. I would really be selective in what I'm swinging at right now.
Takes ball 4. Back-to-back walks to start the inning.
And you can hear it, too. NC State's dugout right now, you're starting to hear the chatter. You're starting to hear the chirp. They're really getting in it right now. They're invested. I think they obviously want to see a big inning right here.
Forcing a pitching change for the Radford Highlanders. Alex Guerra going to his pen here in the 7th. Now you ask the questions, how can Radford get 9 outs to manufacture this game? Here comes Landon Higgerson out of the pen, and we'll take the timeout. 5-run game here in Raleigh.
This dude's got impeccable sideburns. Oh my gosh. You got to say something about that.
Yeah.
I know. And I feel like a name like Higgerson is such a Southern, oh my gosh. First team all facial. Yeah. Even if you didn't know for sure, you have to assume what's going on in the front is definitely going on in the back.
Win the AB. Win any more than that. Win the AB. Pass it down the line. Line drive. One after another, after another.
Some of the best facial hair in college baseball. Landon Hagerson rocking some elite sideburns today. Now he looks to rock out of a jam in the 7th.
If he can get out of his jam right here, then that'll be big. I'm blown away with what he's got going on down the side of his face.
Great flow in the back, little curled mustache up top.
If his pitching game is as good as his facial hair and his mullet, then I don't know if State's offense stands a chance.
Landon Hagerson, 6 outings last year. He struggled. Now looks to settle in with 2 on, nobody out. A+ facial hair for Hagerson. This is a big ask. Back-to-back walks. One of the hottest hitters at NC State's order, Peyton Green, who's hitting .438. Now slots in. The crowd becoming a factor.
And, you know, Green hasn't done a whole lot tonight with the bat in his hands. I mean, this is going to be something really big. For him to come up in the spot right here, in a big spot, that's going to really speak to his maturity and his experience.
That slider is taken outside.
Small miss. I mean, that's a solid miss, especially with the slider that's got more movement naturally than your fastballs.
Now the 1-1. Line to left. This is deep. 3-run homer for Peyton Green.
I just talked about, if you come up in a big spot right here, it's going to change the dynamics of the game. I mean, that's the sign right there of a mature batter right there.
4th home run for Green. And he's all of a sudden with 18 RBI, one of the best hitters in the country.
And this is what you don't want. You don't want State to get hot in a position like this. I mean, you just basically had a 5-run lead stretched to shrunk into a 2-run lead, and you have your 3-hole, who argumentably is your best bat, up to bat.
It was 7-2 entering the inning.
No outs either. I mean, and that's the difference in terms of getting on early in the inning with less than 2 outs. I mean, look what they're able to do and capitalizing on maxing their runs.
Groover up 2-0. We had noted the home run power. 17 home runs entering tonight. And now one of the home run leaders from last year, with James Groover, hits on 2-0.
You can see Groover talking to the home plate umpire right there on kind of where he sees that. He says, you know, it's just right on the edge right there. That's going to be a strike.
3-1. Groover has 2 hits today. And now this offense has come to life. 5 runs, 5 hits, and a bunch in a flurry on the Peyton Green home run. Another hard hit ball. Moore gives chase. That drifts into formerly the bullpen.
And what you want to do, I mean, you saw that last at bat right there with Groover foul balling that pitch. He kind of pulled off that, and that's almost argumentably why he probably fell over on that. You want to stay away with Groover. That's always been kind of the game plan.
He'll hit Groover a little slow out of the box there after the swing.
A little bit. I think he knew that was going to be foul territory anyways, but.
Now the 3-2. Did he go? He did not. A big take.
That's the right approach right there. You want to stay kind of soft away. I mean, Groover he really could hit at any part of the plate. He's that good and that mature of a hitter. But if you really want to try and maximize the outcome here from the pitching perspective, you got to stay soft away with him. So I like that, but too far out of the zone.
That's the yes, 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 no approach at the plate. Now NC State goes to its bench. a power-hitting true freshman, Eli Serrano, at a Fuquay Arena, who blasted his first career home run on Sunday. He followed that up with more success yesterday.
And what Higgerson's got to be careful of right here is, he's had that, I like the bite on his slider or his breaker, but if he throws it too much over the plate, Serrano, he's had some serious pull, although it looked like he was just about a square for a bunt.
Eli Serrano, number 2 rated freshman in North Carolina, and now the cat and mouse game begins. Alex Guerra will head to his bullpen. And with the lefty at the plate, the pitching change in order. So the world's best pair of mutton chops will take a breather after giving up the home run. We'll take the timeout. Radford has been struck by injury this year. Top 2 starting pitchers out with injury the rest of the season. So Scott Rouse enters. He's now the weekend starter for the Highlanders. Pitched 6 innings just 4 days ago. Now he looks to enter and bridge this gap in the 7th. This is a tight spot, just up 2.
There's probably some dual purpose here, given that they're bringing in one of their weekend starters. It looks like their Saturday starter. You can actually use this as a bullpen day for him. Giving him some in-game action, some live batters for him to try to get out. But if you need one of your reliable arms to go to, he seems like he's going to be the guy to try to shut it down right here.
And which Rouse will you get if you're Radford? The one in his debut struck out 11 in 5 innings scoreless, or the one who gave up 10 hits in his previous outing? It's feast or famine for a young arm.
Don't run away now.
He's kind of got that low 3/4 arm slot. Seems like he's got that 2-seam run on his fastball as well.
This is in the middle of an at-bat, so Eli Serrano checks back in on a 1-0 count. A talented freshman hitting .400 in his debut season. And here we go, mid-at-bat, 1 for 4 yesterday. Now facing weekend starter out of the pen in Rouse. Oh, healthy swing there. Oh, that almost hit our booth.
Good posture, good direction. Get out of it. Nice and loose.
Now the 1-1. What a big at-bat for a first-year arm versus a first-year true freshman hitter.
And you've seen in past games what Serrano can do. You get that bottle middle in. He's got enough power and strength where that's going to go over the wall in right field. So you want to go soft away with him.
There's the away. It's fouled off.
He's got that 2-seam fastball, so naturally that's going to move away from Serrano's bat, which is probably the matchup that you want here if you're Radford. But the biggest thing with 2-seam fastballs is if it flattens out, and if you have a low 3/4 arm slot, larger opportunity for it to flatten out. You don't want it to flatten out because it's going to stay over the plate.
The 2-2 forces a full count. NC State with 3 runs in this inning. Now brings the tying run to the plate in the true freshman Eli Serrano, right in the heart of the Wolfpack order against a weekend starter for the Highlanders. Ball 4.
You know, and this is something that you could argue is semi-foreign for Rouse, because him being a weekend starter, he's used to starting innings and coming out of the windup. You know, for him to be plugged in right here coming out of the stretch, it's just a little bit different of a vibe. You have to change your mindset. Now you're constantly thinking about runners in scoring position, runners on base, so the dynamics are completely changed. It's not always easy to kind of be that versatile in terms of if you're a starter or bullpen guy being used in both.
Rouse was a transfer from Ohio Dominican University. And NC State goes deep into its left-handed hitting bench. Dom Polali checks in. He blasted a mammoth home run in Tuesday's win over Longwood. Now he rips a base hit for the right side. Grover comes in to score. It's a one-run game in the 7th.
This is when you really have to start to think just strategically if you're Radford. I mean, you see the momentum that they have right now in their lineup. You have no outs still. You have to try and be cognitive of what's going on in the base path now. You have runners on first and third, no outs. You can see that they could do something in terms of skill, maybe steal right here. There's so many different things that State's offense can do.
Only the second hit of the inning for NC State. The walks have done in Radford in the 7th. And now Noah Souls up with the tying run at third. Listen to this crowd in Raleigh trying to motivate NC State, down 7-2 entering the frame.
Hey, Dan, boy, hey, what again?
Noah Souls is hitless today, 0 for 3. Was riding a 3-game hitting streak entering tonight. Bunt. Wait, is he over the plate? Did he go? Okay, there's a lot to review here. That's a hit by pitch. And Radford wondering, was Souls standing over the plate? Should that be a strike? Scott Rouse can't believe it, because his foot's interesting.
So I'm not quite sure if he fully brought the bat back. I think it's still hovering over the plate. I guess regardless, I mean, they gave him the base.
So Parker Nolan hits with the bases loaded. Nobody out in the 7th. Radford is still yet to get an out, as the Wolfpack have scored 4. Grounded foul. What a moment for Scott Rouse ahead of the bullpen, facing a suddenly surging NC State offense. Largest deficit of the year at 5 runs entering this inning. Now the 0-1. Popped up.
Hey, stay with it. Stay with it.
Gilmore. Big catch. That's a first out. Just enough room.
And that's one of the things, too. I mean, especially with no outs and runners in scoring position. I mean, not even that, but not just that, but you have bases loaded. You don't want to give them easy outs. If you're going to get out, you're going to want to make it a tough out and see if you can actually get something in return right there.
This is why Alex Guerra leans on his weekend starter, Scott Rouse, in the 7th. Trying to extinguish the fire as Jacob Cozart hits with the bases loaded. Three walks in the inning. Actually, 4 walks have done in Radford. The home run by Green, now the bases loaded for Cozart. Ground ball fair. Jacob Cozart cashes him in. There's one. The go-ahead run, Polali. And NC State's back in front.
I think right there, you know, that's perfectly placed too. That's right down the line. It's too far out of the first baseman's range. I mean, couldn't have asked for a better placement on that hit. Almost scored 3 runs, actually. I mean, they Hart held Souls at third base, but I mean, you could have argued that might have been a relatively close play at the plate, but could have scored Souls. Still got 2 out of that, though.
6 runs on just 1 out. Eli Harrison started the inning with a walk. The infield is pinched in for Radford. This game has changed in a hurry here in the 7th. Ball 2.
And you know, when I talk about NC State's lineup and their offense, we tend to focus on how they can hit for average and how they have so much power. They have, you know, 17, 18 home runs, but really the maturity in their offense and not really giving up and being able to fight through this into the later part of the game.
Wow, that bounced off the helmet of Pancione. That just saved a run. And you're in danger here of walking the bases loaded for the top of the order. Big spot for Scott Rouse out of the pen. It's fouled away.
You know, kind of surprised there still with a 3-0 count. You know, the dynamics of the game, it's only a one-run lead now. I don't know if I'm getting super, you know, hack-friendly and trying to swing at that. Rouse has been around the zone. I'm trying to see if he can pitch me a better, you know, pitch right there.
That's down the middle and fouled away.
Because just like that, I mean, now you're at full count. You've almost allowed him the ability to battle himself back into the count. In a situation where 3-0 with runners on second and third, only 1 out, I mean, you don't want to really give him any sort of ability to earn his way back.
NC State had 2 runs entering this inning. Now Harrison to extend the lead on 3-2. Fouls it off. A leadoff walk by Harrison really kick-started this rally. The Green home run, RBI double by Cozart. Now the 3-2. Popped up. Henry gives chase. He has room to make the catch. Souls tags and scores. It's 9-7 NC State.
You know, if you ask me, that's one of the better at-bats that I've personally seen this offensive half inning. I mean, you had some big hits with the home run and down the line with Cozart, but, I mean, he battled in terms of fouling pitches off over and over and then was able to sacrifice an out for a run right there, kind of deep down the left field line and scoring Souls at third base.
So now a 2-run lead for Trevor Candelaria. Cozart's oven mitt would look to be cooking over at second. If Radford can keep this a 2-run game, that'd be so crucial for the Highlanders, who've given up 7 in the inning. Playing with fire on that pitch.
And I know we're not there yet because I feel like there's still a lot more offense to be had this half inning, but you think about it, when they go back out to the field, this is where, if they keep Highfield, this is where he's really going to get locked in and try and hold that lead. I think that's where he really thrives as a pitcher.
Grounded to the mid of Rouse and shovels it to first to end the inning. NC State coming back to life. 7 runs in the inning, and Peyton Green kicks things off with this mammoth 3-run shot.
Big time swing right there. That's when you need it. You need it right now, late in the game. Provide that spark for NC State's offense.
7 runs later, it's the Wolfpack out in front as we head to the 8th. New arm out of the NC State bullpen. Louisiana product, Justin Lawson, his junior year. And all of a sudden, big appearance for Lawson. Heifel bridges the gap, 3 1/3 of one-run baseball. Now it's up to Lawson here in the 8th.
Yeah, this is more of a fastball, slider, changeup mix guy, kind of like what we've seen, recently with NC State's bullpen. But I mean, he's a guy that they really go to late in the game in a situation like this. He already has a save on the year. I mean, he's the type of guy that is going to lock it down for them and do what he can to try and close this game.
He earned that save against Wagner in a 3-2 ball game. And what a credit to Sam Heifel, entering in a tight spot. He gave up the run in the 7th, but otherwise scoreless. Kept his team in it, and the offense provided. By the way, Heifel's in line for the win all of a sudden. Still plenty of work to do here. 7, 8, 9 in the Radford order with Miles Levere, who did go on that pitch.
It's a good tight little off-speed slider right there. It's got some late break. I mean, I feel like you're going to lay off that as a batter just because you don't know what exactly it's going to do.
Late on that swing.
And he's going heavy on the slider right now. I wouldn't be surprised in an advantage count like this. He might go slider one more time, but I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to blow a fastball by him.
Lawson goes to the breaking ball, and it's popped up. Pitcher calls for it. Serrano says, no, you don't, and he's got it.
And that's some good, solid communication right there. I mean, you heard Lawson. He tried to get that ball, but you have to know if you hear someone else, everyone else has priority over that ball, over the pitcher. So you do what you can as the pitcher. You try and call it. Once you hear someone else, you back off.
And Serrano was holding his hat. I don't know if that was by design or he wanted to keep his brim nice and white. He didn't throw his hat to the ground.
Yeah, I've never seen that before, actually.
We've seen all day outfielders let it fly, right? They want to show off the hair. They're running for the ball. Ryan Gilmore hits with 1 out and grounds to James Groover. 2 quick outs for Lawson.
He's been heavy on that slider. I think that's the only pitch he's thrown so far with these 2 batters. He's got it dialed in. He's got it locked in. If that's what is feeling good for him, you got to keep on throwing your best pitch and what you feel most comfortable with. Also, the more you throw it, they don't see that fastball. They don't expect it. It makes it look even harder. And he already is a low 90s guy with his fastball, too.
2 outs for Sully Tibbs, who back in the 4th made it a 6-1 game. Radford was cruising. In fact, it was 7-2 until the bottom of the 7th. Would be the first time all year NC State trailed in the 7th inning. And what a response from Elliott Avens' club. Tibbs is the bottom of the order, 9-1-2 for Radford here in the 8th. He gets his slider and rips it off the base. The double doink. And a 2-out single, tying run coming to the plate.
It's really big, especially with 2 outs. What you want to do is that's the most important out of the inning to get is that 3rd out. So right here, dealing with a little bit of a hiccup, a little bit of adversity, you want to make sure that you do everything you can to minimize this inning. I mean, they're only trailing by 2 to State. So this could be a huge momentum swing depending on what happens, just like what happened with State last half.
And Zach Whitaker's hit everything hard, 2 for 4. He's also scored a couple of runs. Now he drives one out of play.
I do like the approach on going, breaking ball, breaking ball, breaking ball, because you've seen what Radford's offense has done for the most part today with fastballs. They've been able to hit it hard.
Whitaker, one of the lone true seniors on this Radford roster. Had an injury cut short in the final month of the season, but he's come back. 2 more hits today. He'd love to tie this up with 1 swing. There's the swing, but he's late.
I'd like to see him try and elevate either elevate a fastball, try and go up and into the fastball, or really just rely on that breaking pitch to get some swing and miss.
Lawson on 1 and 2. Fouled away.
Maybe try and groove a fastball by him just because he's seen the slider so much so far in this at bat.
Another 1-2. Slider way in. Radford has 3 hits with 2 outs today. 3 hits of men in scoring position. Top of the order for the Highlanders. This is an opportunity to tie this game in the 8th after NC State took the lead in the 7th. Full count.
Obviously, defense showing that they're saying a loss, and you just go right after the batter. You know, Serrano's not holding him at this point. Get your out at the plate.
Tying run at the plate. The 3-2 misses inside. 2 on with 2 out.
You can see Lawson wanted that too. That wasn't a terrible miss. That was kind of just up and in a little bit.
A little inside. Whitaker on for the 3rd time today.
But this is what I was talking about, is you want to minimize the damage, especially after 2 strikes or 2 outs in the inning. You want to be able to finish that last third of the inning and not allow them to creep back into this game.
Strike 1 to Tristan Shoemaker, who's 0 for 3. A couple of strikeouts his last 2 at-bats. Filling some big shoes. 4-year starter David Bryant at short has graduated. It's all Shoemaker's show. And he's up for the challenge. Fly ball to left. Giving chase. Souls is there. Keeping this game a 2-run difference for NC State. Radford didn't miss that by much. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. Senior lefty Luke Von Gator out of Everett Community College enters out of the Radford bullpen. 2nd year with the Highlanders, 30 innings of work. We knew this would be a Johnny Holstaff type of effort. 8 different pitchers for Radford today. Now it's up to Van Gator to keep this a 2-run game.
And I think this is another guy for Radford that it's one of their starters. I know that Rouse was their Saturday or Sunday guy, but I'm pretty sure Von Gator, I think he's made a pair of starts so far this season.
He is in the weekend rotation, has only pitched 5 innings, so short outings. And now he faces an NC State player who broke this game open last inning with a 3-run homer, Peyton Green, his 4th home run of the year. Line drive to right. This ball's got a chance, and it is off the wall. Quickly in by Moore. Play at second, safe.
It's a great hard hit ball, you know, elevated it kind of the other way, kind of towards right field, right center. The only thing here is I don't know how hard he was booking it out of the box. I think he either thought it was going to be more of a can of corn, so you're not giving it as much effort. I mean, if you don't want to make that as close of a play, you have to be hustling 100% out of the box. Great piece of hitting, though, by by Peyton Green.
That was a great throw by Paul Moore as well.
And such a hard hit ball too. I mean, that's going to lend itself to just more of a quicker play. And he just missed the tag.
And he just kept his hand on the base too. We've seen countless examples of players oversliding.
And and this is an offensive half right here where if you're State, you really could use all the extra insurance runs that you manufacture. I mean, a 2-run lead is nothing to feel comfortable about when you go back and to pitch and play defense. So anything they can get right here, especially with the heart of their lineup, they really want to take advantage of Peyton Green being on second base right now. 9
extra base hits for the sophomore shortstop. The umpires are taking a look to confirm out or safe, if he overslid the bag or if that tag's there in time. It looked on the first time we saw it that he was safe, but it is good they are double checking this.
Yeah, I think it got him. Maybe not. He might have got in.
Let's see. And the decision?
Safe.
Call stands. Alex Guerra looks on in year one, wondering what could have been. Radford up 7-2, entering the 7th. Things have changed in a hurry. There's LaJames Groover. Groover smokes one out of play.
Stay on the ball.
So much power in this NC State offense. 17 home runs entering tonight, and that power starting to play a factor.
Yeah, well, these are the guys that you want up in a situation like this, especially last inning too. They were
Popped up to right. Moore charges. Green tags. Moore throws a bullet to third. Whoa. Paul Moore has a cannon.
Yeah, that was an absolutely solid throw. And not only was that some solid power with his arm, but that was very, very much on the money. Very close. I mean, Rivera didn't have to go very far laterally.
That man has to register his left arm. Look at that thing. Whew.
I mean, that's right on line.
So Green tags up. Moore shows us why he's got one of the best arms in the Big South. And Serrano gets plunked. So Radford some self-inflicted wounds. 8 walks, 3 hit batters.
A little bit of a dicey situation here, kind of like earlier, runners on first, runners on third. There's a various amount of different things you can do with your State's offense. You're at the heart of the lineup. I'd like to see them swing the bats and see if they can do something through those means. But I mean, you can bunt, you can try and double steal. There's so much you can do right here.
Dominic Palali waits for a moment. And pitching coach Christian Bourne heads out.
I think this visit right here is more so on just be cognizant of what you have around you rather than just focusing on the batter. I think he's just telling them, hey, you really got to lock in. You obviously want to get that out at the plate with Palali, but you got some guys that can do some damage on the base passes, as well.
That's an infused confidence in your pitcher type of meeting. Getting out of a tight spot here in the 8th. Weekend starter Luke Van Gadert. First and third, 1 out for Dom Palali, who singled as part of the rally his last time up.
Oh, nice and low, kid.
Interesting. That second pitch seemed more outside than the first one. It's called a strike.
I was thinking that too, Evan. I think a lot of it has to do with where it's crossing the plate versus where it's just ending up. I mean, sometimes I think we pay attention to where that catcher's actually catching the ball.
Good slider for strike 2.
That's perfect placement too. That's where I would want it, is kind of start it middle away and let it break outside into the other batter's box. Kind of more so over the chalk.
The artist formerly known as Chalk here in all-turf batter's box.
Right. The white line.
It's very visible here, part of Phase 1 construction at Doak Field at Dale Park. 2-run game, 2 on, and the 2-2. Caught him swinging with a slider. Big second out.
Here we go.
Great placement on the slider right there. That forces some swing in this action, especially ahead in the count, kind of 1-2. That's exactly where you want it.
Let's go.
Noah Souls up with 2 outs. The Wolfpack have only 1 hit tonight with 2 outs.
He's trying to force some weak contact, kind of staying soft away with that breaking pitch. He's had some really solid command with that slider too. I would keep on throwing it. It's been his best pitch so far.
On Gator to the fastball for strike 1. Noah Souls scored 1 of 7 runs for the Wolfpack to regain the lead in the 7th. Runner takes off, and that ricochets off everybody.
All right, now go to work. Okay.
You don't see many foul balls that hit the batter, the catcher, and the umpire.
No, that's a rarity.
It's like
actually.
pinball. You
Yeah.
hit the corner buttons and try
Oh,
ding, 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 keep the ball in play. Give me a couple quarters and a Pizza Hut. I could play arcades all day.
Go to work, kid. Here we go, Luke. Hey, wait. Let your hands work.
Now the 1-2. Punched away by Souls.
Want to try and lower that pitch a little bit. I mean, that's, you know, left to right wise, that's where I want it, but you want to lower that a little bit because he can still get a good piece of that.
NC State threatening in the 8th. 2 on, 2 out. Gator gets the swing with a breaking ball, and that ends the inning. Confirmed over third by Joe Blumenauer, and we go to the 9th. Last chance for the Highlanders, leading early, now trailing, entering the 9th. Let's see what happens in Raleigh when we come back. Here in the top of the 9th, NC State's come all the way back, down 7-2. And now Justin Lawson looks to secure a 2-inning save and secure this come-from-behind win.
Yeah, I think these are the situations that he really thrives. This is what they've used him for the most part in this short beginning of the season so far. They've used him at the end of the game, trying in a safe situation.
And the magic number's 9. Only 9 undefeated teams left in the country. Wake Forest and NC State of the ACC. And it's a handful of clubs. Appalachian State lost yesterday, so the list has dwindled. And now a line drive that stays into the air and goes out of play.
You know, you got a righty-on-righty matchup. I'd love to see kind of that sharp, short slider kind of maybe start it kind of outside half of the plate and see if he can swing and miss on this, because that swing, he was definitely thinking left field right there.
Garrett Poncione hits, and he goes down on the slider. One quick out.
It's a great pitch. Started it right exactly where it needed to. You could see kind of the batter's front shoulder. He's definitely swinging towards left field.
First strikeout for Lawson out of the pit. Here's Julian Rojas.
Like that he's pitching backwards. That slider backed up a little bit, though. He's got to kind of get his hands and his snap a little bit more out front.
Another foul ball.
Kind of like right there. Much better.
This was a role inherited by Chris Villeman all of last season. 11 saves for NC State. Who will fill that void today in a 2-run lead as Justin Lawson flips in strike 2. Now the 1-2 to Rojas. Punched away. Radford not going down quietly. Had 2 on in the 8th, threatening here in the 9th. A Highlander team that lost 17-2 yesterday against Virginia Tech. Goes down, swing, and second out.
That's a great pitch. I haven't seen a whole lot of pitchers so far today elevate that fastball, trying to get it up near the shoulders inside. That's exactly what you want to do with a 1-2 count.
And the catcher wanted it low and away. He gets it up and in, and he gets the point across. Peyton Henry, the last chance for Radford. Strike 1. Radford led 7-2 in the 7th, and things have turned in a hurry. Down to their final strike.
I think right here, you have everyone in it. You have the crowd in it. You have the team in it. You want to try and finish this.
He does with a breaking ball. Justin Lawson helps NC State start 9-0. This time in comeback fashion with a 7-run 7th inning.
Some great baseball right there. I thought their offense, you know, they had that really big inning, which they needed. You know, you had Radford with a couple big innings, manufacturing 3 runs for a couple different innings. But, I mean, what happened was you had NC State's offense that kind of woke up, bats woke up, experienced hitters. They were able to have a really, really big, efficient inning that really costed Radford, unfortunately.
NC State moves to 9-0, sweeping midweek action. It was all Radford early, and NC State comes back. 9-0 start. Radford drops to 2-7. For our talented crew led by Lucas Raycraft, Wes Myers, Tim West, Dave Obeid on graphics, McKenna Owens, Fisher Plummer taking Shrek and Goss, Tyler Ironswine, Matt Quick, Bobby Welch, Daniel Bentley, Mark Dry, Justin Allen, and of course my partner, Sean Adler. I'm Evan Budjerich saying goodnight from Raleigh. NC State in comeback fashion takes down the Radford Highlanders 9-7. This is a presentation of ESPN.